Happy Sunday, everyone. I am very glad that you could be here with me today. We're going to have a little bit of fun. So we have a new sign on the fridge back here. Check it out. You know, I was at actually two markets on Friday and one on Saturday, and really had a good time at all of them. They were wonderful. I was in Lacombe Friday morning and Ponoka Friday afternoon, and in Hoadley, Alberta yesterday, and it was a wonderful way to spend a couple of days of my week, and I met some really great people. And in the process, I had an opportunity to talk to people about the dangers of keto. Now, I don't know if you are doing keto right now, if you're doing it long term, if you've been doing it just for a minute. I don't know what you're doing, but here's what I do know. I do know that there's a lot of misinformation out there. And while we make our spiced keto custard, we're going to talk about that misinformation. So I want you all to grab your pen, grab your paper. We're going to have some fun making some custard that is a wonderful keto-friendly dessert. And just let me turn this a little bit because I'm going to be standing over here. So we're going to make a keto-friendly dessert. Alexa, stop. And just give me 1 second to check on part of what we're doing today. Not quite ready yet. Alexa, set a 5-minute timer. Okay, now.
5 minutes, starting now.
On Thursday, I believe, it is Thanksgiving, south of the border in the States. So let's talk about
Here's
having
something I found
Alexa,
on the web.
stop. She just butts in. She just does. Okay, so we're going to talk about Keto Thanksgiving. And just because it isn't Thanksgiving in Canada doesn't mean that we can't have a wonderful Thanksgiving dinner, because every day is a day to be thankful. Okay, let's talk about this. Now, we're going to... Okay, here we go. We have a bowl. Custard usually is something that is... Good morning, Mom. Custard is something that is usually reserved for non-keto because it's full of sugar and it's full of, I don't know, cornstarch or whatever you're putting in it. But this morning we are going to make a keto-friendly custard that is spiced as well. So let's get at it. Now, this is a small batch recipe, and I've done that intentionally for you because I know that there are still a lot of people who are not gathering in large groups. That doesn't mean that you can't make dessert, and you can easily multiply this to fit as many people as you have coming to your Thanksgiving dinner. Now, the very first thing we're going to add is 2 eggs. And it does not matter if you break the yolk, because we're going to do a whole lot worse than that to the yolks in a couple of minutes. Okay, so 2 eggs, 125 milliliters or half a cup of whipping cream or heavy cream, whatever you choose to call it. And there is our signal that I forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb again. Have you noticed that that seems to be a common thing with me? Okay, I am going to fix that right now. Okay, touch the button and hope that it works. Okay, and honestly, there we go. Now we are not going to be disturbed. We can just have our time together and not worry about it. Okay, so we have 125 milliliters of whipping cream in here. We have 2 eggs. Now we're going to add 125 milliliters of almond milk. Now, the reason we are using, and you can use coconut milk instead, it doesn't have to be almond milk. The reason that I'm using half cream and half almond milk is because it brings the fat content down. Good morning, Del. bringing the fat content down seems completely upside down to what we usually talk about, because keto is a high fat, moderate protein way of eating. And so why on earth would I want to be bringing the fat content down? Well, it's because if this is a dessert, you've already had your meal, right? So I'm wanting to make sure that if you want to eat this as a meal, you can use all whipping cream, that's fine. But if you're using it as a dessert and you have eaten a meal that had enough fat in it, you want to make sure that this is a little bit lower fat so that it's still going to fit in your budget. Okay, so we are going to whip this up. And you'll notice I'm being nice to you today. Not only do I have a silicone whisk, but I could have used my mixer and I decided to be nice. So you want this beat up really well. And once it is beat up, we're going to add some other good stuff to it. Okay, now 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And it can be clear vanilla, it can be normal vanilla, doesn't matter. Either way works. And here's the important part. Now I'm going to set this aside for just a second. So I have 90 grams of powdered erythritol. Now you want it to be powdered because we want this to really suspend nicely in this egg and cream mixture. My volume looks like it's working well. Can you hear me okay now? Somebody said turn my volume up. Okay, well, let's see if we can't make it a little bit better. Is that better? Maybe not. I don't know. Alexa, stop. Now I just have to pop over here for a second. And, oh my. Okay. You know, every time I do not have a production crew with me, things seem to get a little bit mixed up here. But we are going to fix this, and I am going to be right back with you. So I've got some surprises happening here. Okay. Now, having everything out and ready before you start is an important thing, and I apparently forgot a step. So here we are, doing our best to do our best. And we are just going to set this over here and let it cool for a little bit. Okay, now back to where we were, because I'm back to where we were, sort of, kind of. Okay, when you are doing something like this, just let me set this out of the way again. You want to make sure that any spice that you're using, you are mixing it in with your erythritol. And you do that so that you don't end up with a lump of spice. There really is not a whole lot that tastes worse than a big lump of spice or baking powder or something that is meant to be blended in. You really need to take care and make sure that it is blended in. So I sifted this spice. Now I'm using 1 teaspoon of TSL Organics pumpkin spice. And I sifted it first to make sure that there's no hard lumps in it. And we're going to sift it through a screen a second time to make sure that we don't have any lumps in our erythritol either, because powdered erythritol tends to be very, very clumpy. So just get out a screen and pour it through. Now you will see in just a second, you'll see the lumps of erythritol in here. Now that is why we make sure, can you guys see all of those lumps? Now this is why we make sure to sift it, because if those were gold nuggets, that would be great. We'd want to save them, but they are not, and it's not what we're working for here. So we just push it through the screen, make sure that we don't have any lumps. Okay, now we're just going to set this aside. And we are going to finish beating this up. Now, powdered erythritol will make a heck of a mess, a powdery mess all over the place if you're not careful with it. So you want to pour it carefully. You can see that I've got dust all over the sides of the bowl just from doing this. Okay, now, once we get, it's this easy. It takes 5 minutes to make this, you guys. So, no reason not to. Now, you are going to want to join me on Wednesday morning or watch the replay. If for some reason you can't be here on Wednesday morning, watch the replay, because on Wednesday morning, we are going to be making keto rice pudding. Yes, you heard that right, keto rice pudding. I am not even messing with you. That's how we're going to do it. So, you want to be here Wednesday morning to check that out and see how we're going to make it happen. Now, I am going to divide this evenly into 3 ramekins, and the reason that we're using these little shallow dishes is because we're going to put it in a hot water bath in the oven, and we want it to cook evenly. Whoops. And as usual, I'm making a bit of a mess on the counter. It's kind of just how I roll. Okay. Now, I am going to get these into the oven quick. And then we are going to have a bit of a chat because we have time this morning. Look at me being all on time. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you what we have just taken out of the oven. You knew that was going to happen, right? Okay, let me grab something here to grab these. Now it goes in, looking like that. It comes out, looking like this. Now you want a hot water bath, so you need to be setting these in a pan with hot water about 1/2 inch up the sides of the bowl, and that hot water is really important to get that nice custardy flavor. The other thing that you really need to make sure of is that your ingredients are all room temperature, because if they are not room temperature, it's not going to bake evenly. So if you're using really cold ingredients, it's going to start baking on the outside and still be cold on the inside. Now, that's true even if your ingredients are room temperature. However, that being said, can I touch this? Nope, still can't touch that pan. It's still a little too hot on the ends. That being said, there isn't nearly as much of a temperature difference if you've allowed your ingredients to get to room temperature and you're going to set them in a hot water bath like this. We're going to put them in a 350-degree oven for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Okay, so let's do that right now. We'll get them in here. And they will be ready in about 45 minutes. Now, I want to talk to you about a few things regarding keto. And let your mouth water for a while as we're looking at these wonderful custards that have just come out of the oven, and we're going to let them cool a little bit. You need your custard to cool for, well, at least 10 minutes, but 20 minutes, half an hour is better. You can put this in the fridge for up to 2 weeks, 3 servings, 2 weeks. You can also freeze it. And if you freeze it, when you take it out of the freezer, make sure you let it thaw in the fridge overnight. You don't want to... There we go. You don't want to leave it sitting out on the counter, not when it has egg and cream. And so thaw it in the fridge overnight. Okay, so I want to talk to you, if I can figure out how to change my screen. There we go. Just like that. I want to talk to you about the dangers of keto. Right? Check it out. Okay. I was talking to someone in the last couple of days, and I was told that keto is not a healthy way to eat. And the reason that keto is not a healthy way to eat is because you're not getting any whole grains. You're not getting any grain of any kind. And everybody knows that you have to have a certain amount of carbohydrates in your diet because it's what gives you energy. Well, that's what we were told. That doesn't make it true. You know, I think, and I'm sure I've said this to you guys before, I think often about Christopher Columbus and his mom. And I can imagine the day he sailed away, her standing on the dock being absolutely horrified that her son was going to sail off the edge of the earth and she would never see him again. And she didn't just think that was true. She knew it was true. Everybody knew it. And yet, nobody knows it now. Well, okay, there might be one or two that still think that way, but now they don't know it. They think it. We've seen the pictures. We know our Earth is round and we revolve around the sun and things spin and we've got the whole gravity thing happening. We've changed our way of looking at things. The fact that we've been told that salt will raise your blood pressure, carbohydrates are good for you, sugar may not be so good, but whole grains are healthy, saturated fat will clog your arteries and cause a heart attack. All of those things we've been told for a very long time. None of them are true and none of them are backed by science. And 45 minutes, you want them just to be firm in the center. Not super firm, but just a little bit browned on top. If they're still a little bit wiggly in the center, they will firm up when they come out of the oven because there will be that residual cooking that happens. Okay, so way too much saturated fat in the keto diet, so it is going to clog your arteries and give you a heart attack. Did you know that they have now taken away any limits on saturated fat in the food guides? Because science has shown that saturated fat does not clog your arteries. Saturated fat does not give you a heart attack. What does give you a heart attack? Well, they are still studying that, granted, but there is mounting evidence that heart disease, high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, arterial disease is caused by inflammation. Okay, so that's great. We know it's caused by inflammation. Where does that inflammation come from? I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. But I am somebody who has been doing keto for 3.5 years. So I will tell you what I know for sure. I know for sure that when I started this journey, I was 350 pounds. And I was a 350-pound woman who had chronic back pain. And every time I would go to stand up from a sitting position, I would be moaning and groaning and have one hand on the table and one hand on my knee, and I'd be grunting, and it hurt. It hurt all day, every day. It hurt enough that when I was out doing markets, and I still did, I was taking 6 to 8 extra strength Advil every single day. I cannot even imagine what I was doing to my liver, but I did it to manage the pain. And it was the only thing that seemed to work. Tylenol didn't seem to work, but Advil did. So that's what I did. When I started doing keto, and I wasn't even doing it right, I didn't know then what I know now. But I cut way, way back on the carbs. I was still eating hot dogs, sugar-cured bacon, Smokies. That's what I had in the fridge. And I decided, after watching a documentary that I have recommended to you guys many times, please watch The Magic Pill if you haven't seen it yet. It's on Netflix. You can watch it. If you have a Netflix subscription, watch it. And when you're done watching it, maybe go back and watch it again. If you watched it 2 or 3 years ago, go back and watch it again. Oh, and I want to say, now I don't know whether she's here right now or not, but I know I've told you that Anne-Marie was not feeling well, and she has been a fairly regular viewer, and she's home recovering and feeling much better, and we're all very grateful for that. So She is now doing her best to live her best version of this shining life in recovery mode. So we're sending her out all kinds of good energy. Okay, back to chronic pain. When I started doing the keto diet, and I was doing it wrong, in less than 1 week, my chronic back pain disappeared. It was just gone. I went to stand up one day and I stood up. And I thought that was new. It was awesome, but it was new. So I kept going and I started losing weight and I started gaining energy. And my husband was not interested in doing it, and I kept saying to him, you really need to do this. And he finally, very seriously, and not in a mean way, but in a way that he made sure I understood. He said, I am not doing this and you need to quit pushing me. And he was absolutely right. Because at that point, it was right for me. It would have been right for him too, but he needed to get there. So, the love of my life, who is a cardiac patient, had a heart attack in 2012 and had high blood pressure, wasn't interested in doing keto. And then he was. About 6 months later, when he saw the difference that it was making in my pain level and in my energy level and in my weight, he said, okay, I'm ready. And so we've done it. Even though he's in the truck, doesn't mean that you can't do keto. And guess what? He no longer has high blood pressure. He is no longer suffering from coronary artery disease. It has reversed. Does that happen for everybody? I can't answer that. And I don't think anyone can answer that. It depends on how serious your disease is, how far it's progressed. But can you manage it doing keto and mitigate the damage? Absolutely you can. Are you going to? I don't know. That's up to you. But is keto unhealthy? Now, something that I was told this weekend is that you cannot get enough vitamins and nutrients doing keto because you're not getting enough vegetables. You're not getting enough healthy whole grains. You're just not getting enough, and you need to eat more. You need carrots and peas and corn, and no, you don't. Those are the things that were causing the inflammation that caused my lower back pain, that caused my type 2 diabetes, that caused my husband's high blood pressure and his coronary artery disease and his heart attack. So, how healthy are they really? Because it wasn't until we stopped eating those things that our health turned around, and we are by far the only ones that have had that experience. So, how do you get the nutrients that you need if you're not eating your fruits and vegetables? Well, let me tell you. You're eating meat. Now, I want you to think about this for just a second. Now, most of us, when we eat meat that come from herbivores, right? So, cows, elk, venison, chickens. Well, chickens are kind of omnivores, I guess. They eat bugs. But let's talk about beef specifically. When you think about beef, it comes from a cow. Everybody knows that. How many stomachs does a cow have? A cow has 4 stomachs. Why does a cow have 4 stomachs? And when you think about this logically, this is a creature that was specifically designed to be a herbivore. That's it. All they eat is plant matter. And for some reason, an animal that lives only on plant matter needs 4 stomachs to pull the nutrients out of that plant. How many stomachs do you have? 1. How many nutrients are we pulling out of the plant matter that we eat? Interesting question, isn't it? Now, if it takes 4 stomachs for a cow to pull out all of the nutrients that they need to keep them healthy, there's a pretty good chance that we're not pulling out all the nutrients that we need. But, we're pulling out some, and we're eating some meat as well as the fruits and vegetables and healthy whole grains. So overall, things stay fairly well balanced. Well, when you do keto, especially if you can eat meat that is grass-fed and grass-finished, and not everybody can, and you do what you can do. You don't need to be push to take out a second mortgage on your house in order to buy organic. But if you can, it's awesome. And the reason that you are still getting your vitamins and nutrients is because when that cow eats plants, where do the nutrients go? After they go through the whole four stomach system, where do those nutrients go? They go into the flesh. They go into the meat that you're eating. So you're not going to be low on vitamins. You're absolutely going to be getting your vitamins. And if you can buy free run eggs, do that. Because guess how many vitamins and minerals? If you've never seen the yolk in a free run egg, a free range egg where the chickens are running around and they're eating seeds and grass and bugs and scratching and doing chicken things all day instead of being locked in a cage and fed garbage food that makes them grow fast or lay more eggs, go and buy 1 dozen free run eggs and go to your local farmer's market and get it from someone there and look at the difference in the color of the yolk. Because I'm telling you right now, it will blow your mind. Now, I just had someone who has raised chickens tell me that one of the things that they used to feed their chickens all the time was garlic, because that garlic flavored the egg yolks. She said it was the most amazing flavored egg that you've ever had. Now, I don't know if that was specifically a garlic flavor or if it was just a healthy flavor, and maybe if you don't like garlic, you wouldn't like those eggs. I don't know. But the point is, what they eat, what an animal eats, makes a huge difference in the way they taste. If you've ever had, if you're a hunter, or if you know someone who's a hunter, if you have ever eaten wild meat that comes from a muskeg area and has that really wild, musky flavor that I don't care for, that's not from anything other than what they eat. And somebody said to me the other day when I was sharing with them that I don't care for moose meat, they said, that's because you had swamp moose. You didn't have prairie moose. Now, are those two different breeds? No. It's exactly the same animal, but it's where they live. It's what they eat. So, if it changes the flavor of the meat, how much does it change the nutrition? It's huge. So you're getting the nutrients from what they eat. You're not going to be suffering from vitamin deficiencies. So that's number 1. Number 2, salt. I had somebody tell me this weekend salt makes their hands swell up. It's horrible. You can't eat salt. And I said, okay, so I have 2 questions. First of all, what kind of salt are you eating? Because if you're eating normal table salt, that stuff is horrible for you. It will cause all kinds of nasty things to go on in your body. But I was assured that this person was eating pink salt, Himalayan salt. Not the very best salt, but it's pretty close. So the next question is, what are you eating that salt with? What are you putting it on? Well, guess what the answer was? Potatoes and pasta and peas and carrots and corn and all of the things that actually do cause inflammation. She said, nope, the salt makes my body retain water. And so here's what I want all of you to know. First of all, I don't want you to believe everything that I'm saying without question. I want you to do your research because the information is out there. Every glucose molecule in your body, and this person was type 2 diabetic, every glucose molecule carries 6 water molecules. That's a rule. The higher your glucose, the higher your fluid retention is going to be. That's also a rule. So if you want your blood sugar to come down, best way to do it, don't eat it. Don't eat carbs. Don't eat sugar. If you want the fluid retention to come down, I don't know, seems like pretty easy math to me. If it's the carbs that are holding on to the fluid, if you get rid of the carbs, guess what else you get rid of? But keto is still dangerous because lots of people that do keto get the keto flu. Yeah, that's because your body is flushing out all that fluid, and it flushes it out using sodium. So up your salt intake. That would be the salt that was not causing your fluid retention. That would be the salt that you're eating that regulates your blood pressure. So do your research. Talk to people if you can't or don't know how to do the research, or you've done the research and you still don't know how to navigate keto. You know how to get hold of me. I'm right here 3 times a week, and you can get hold of me through Facebook, YouTube, however you want to get hold of me. And I do have room for some more coaching clients right now. So hang out here, listen to what we talk about, make your custard. Now this has been sitting while we've been eating, and now we were done way early, and I've kept you longer anyway. This has a really lovely crunch on top from the erythritol. As it cools, it leaves that nice crunch. And I want to show you the inside. Now look at, you can see the creamy inside and all of the beautiful yumminess on top. It just doesn't disappoint. It is nice and light and creamy. It's not a heavy dessert. It's wonderful. Now, would it be more creamy if we had used all whipping cream? Absolutely it would have been. Would have had a bit of a different texture. Yeah, it absolutely would have been different. It also would have had a lot higher fat content, and we would have had to have taken that into account when we were eating our meal. So, make your custard. And join me on Wednesday morning for keto rice pudding. You don't want to miss it. It is going to be so delicious. I want all of you to do your very best to live your best version of this shining life from now until Wednesday. You know, I saw a t-shirt the other day that said, in a world where you can be anything, choose to be kind. So do that, and call someone who needs some attention, who needs some love, who needs some friendship, and accept it when it's offered to you. It's important. Thank you for joining me today. I will see you Wednesday morning. I am so excited that you could be here, and go make some custard and enjoy. And if you are in the States, happy Thanksgiving.